From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, Inspector General of Police warns politicians against arming thugs ahead of the Edo and Ondo governorship elections. Northern elders call for caution over fresh moves by the National Assembly to review the 1999 Constitution. 2 killed as police and members of the outlawed Shiite group clash in Kaduna. And protesters face off with police as they take to the streets of Belarus in protest against President Alexander Lukashenko. Plus, sports stories. And preparation for the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states are getting more intense, and the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, is warning politicians and their supporters in both states against any form of violence that will disrupt the process. The IGP said in a statement the force will not hesitate to bring the full weight of the law on anyone or group, irrespective of status, that may want to sabotage the security arrangements put in place for the elections. He's asked politicians to conduct themselves properly, play by the rules and steer clear of tendencies capable of undermining the electoral process. He also ordered the commissioners of police in the 2 states rejig their preparations for the elections to accommodate and address the threats and emerging trends as contained in the security report. The warning follows a review of the election security threat assessment reports submitted by the commissioners of police from both states. With a security concern and warning from the police chief, the People's Democratic Party is accusing the All Progressives Congress of attacking its members and supporters in Agbede area of the state during the governorship campaigns to the town. The party's publicity secretary in Edo State, Mr. Chris Nekare, says investigations have revealed the perpetrators of the incident and that 2 of the suspects are already in police custody. The PDP spokesperson told journalists that his party remains confident of victory at the polls.
In Agbede on Friday, which is on Thursday, which is actually the local government or the community of the deputy governor candidate of APC. Our people in the residence of one of our leaders, Usman, were attacked viciously in his compound, not on the streets now, in his compound. 11 armed men broke in and started shooting sporadically into this place, destroying vehicles and wounding about 10 people that were rushed to the hospital. The APC, a few weeks ago, commissioned a reputable polling company to do an opinion poll on how the result will swing in Edo State. That result, as soon as they received it, has caused a lot of chaos in their system because the result was clear that PDP won in at least, overwhelmingly, in at least 16 local governments. The consequence of this is that they are now desperate to have the election actually postponed, hence the increase in their violent attack.
Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress in Edo State has denied the allegations, insisting it is a ploy by the PDP to cover the party's roles in previous political violence, which the APC has constantly alerted Nigerians about. The Edo State APC Publicity Secretary, Chris Azabame, is also insisting that it has no reason or intention to engage in violence in an election it is convinced of winning overwhelmingly.
We have said over and over that the PDP is busy chasing shadows. First of all, I'm sure you are aware that Malam Gani Audu is from Agbede. So obviously Agbede is a no-go area for the PDP. Knowing that, they have now tried to cast a slur on the very successful outing we had in Agbede. Let me debunk it. there was no incident of violence in Agbede. There is no way we could have been shooting at ourselves, is there? Whether Ososo, whether Agbede, we were the ones organizing a campaign. So if PDP claims that there were incidents of violence, I challenge them to publicly display their victims, put them out into the media space to say these are the people that were shot out by APC. Of course, it is not true. I am debunking it. Nothing like that. APC, we have consistently preached against violence in these campaigns because we said we have a simple agenda that we are marketing. And so being an issue-based campaign, we have no reason to engage in violence.
In the meantime, the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Pastor Osage Ize-Iyamu, is promising the people of Edo State he will improve on security in the state through massive job creation and youth empowerment if he is elected as governor. Pastor Ize-Iyamu made this promise during the APC ward-to-ward rally in Esako East local government area. He also promised to implement policies that will effectively drive the industrial potential of Esako East and the entire Edo State.
There's excitement as Wepa Kingdom welcomes the Edo All Progressives Congress governorship campaign trail to Esako East local government area. With the cheers still loud, the APC governorship candidate Osage Ize-Iyamu and the party's former national chairman Adam Sushomole take to the stage to address the people on the need for them to cast their ballots for the APC.
I'm very proud to say now when I did government, our secondary to government, now we open that college of agriculture again. What did this government do now? What did Don't you know one good thing for your place that you continue for office? What has created a problem for us is that Obaseki betrayed Edo people by not continuing with the projects that we started, whether it is building new schools, new roads, health centers, or even electricity.
The train also makes a stop in Okwepe, where the party promises to bring more development to the people if given the mandate.
We get simple agenda. That simple agenda, the summary of what we say, we go use and say bring development come here. We now go see good roads. We now hospital, we go make a really functional. We now school, we will get teachers. And we go make sure say our youth get jobs and our women get empowerment.
The APC governorship campaign train continues to tour communities and villages across the state, believing that its message to the people will bring forth victory in the coming election.
Staying with politics, but this time in Rivers State, as Governor Nyesom Wike has continued to reconcile warring parties within the political class in the state as he receives members of the opposition All Progressives Congress who are defecting to the People's Democratic Party. The governor, who was in a chair local government area of the state to welcome a grassroots APC chieftain, Mr. Ambrose Muizu, back to the PDP, charged politicians refrain from divisive politics and selective development for political reasons, an approach he considers anti-ethical to the norms of democracy.
I do know there are people from Afara and Nihi who are in PDP. So why should I survive a people simply because my friend opposed me? That my friend is no longer with us here today. He's not here today. Politics, there's no permanent friend, no permanent. What we have is what we call permanent interest. But let me use this opportunity today to call on the leaders of the chair political party, PDP. Enough is enough of your disagreements. Enough is enough of the confusion in the party. There's nothing like returnists in this party. I will not accept that. Everybody who has come to this party, all of us are equal. And we must stop saying that there are returnees in the party. We must stop that. If your brother traveled overseas and came back, he cannot say he's a returnee.
The Northern Elders Forum is kicking against the newly proposed review of the 1999 Constitution by the Senate, describing it as a predictable waste of time, energy and resources at a time when the economy is facing unprecedented challenges. The Director of Publicity and Advocacy of the Forum, Hakeem Baba Ahmed, accused the Ninth Assembly of following in the footsteps of their predecessors in spending huge amounts of money meant for the Nigerian people on jamboree. He wants the lawmakers to look at past reviews, recommendations and reports from past attempts at amending the Constitution and use these as resources to review the Constitution.
The Northern Elders Forum recommends the alternative of leaders of thought, elders, groups, and professional organizations and representatives of the government to freely discuss every element of our coexistence as a country under principles of voluntarism, genuine representation, mutual respect, and integrity of the process. A Nigerian People's Conference on Review of the Constitution will benefit from past work in this direction, in addition to contemporary challenges which the country needs to address in a context that allows free and productive engagements without predetermined ends. The outcome of this conference should be submitted to the two arms of government, which should provide for a referendum in the Constitution so that Nigerians can directly decide on how they want their nation to be structured and function. The way to go is not to go through this omnibus, vague initiative about amending the Constitution. It should be focused. It should be directed at these new realities. It should address the issue of security, for instance. It should address the issue of poverty. It should address the issue of the crumbling economy of the country. It should address uncertainties about the future of the country. That's what the National Assembly should do. What they called for is memoranda to amend the Constitution, the same thing that has been done since 1999. So if they're concerned about new realities, they are certainly not going to address those new realities by the process that they want to put in place. This is just the same old thing that is being repeated.
We're staying with politics. A Nigerian political economist and co-chairman of the Nigeria Consultative Front, Professor Patrick Utomi, has joined the league of those calling for the urgent fixing of the country to avert what he calls an imminent collapse. Professor Utomi called for a change in leadership and governance structure of the country for the benefit of Nigerians towards democracy. On the issue of the 2023 presidency, he strongly believes the next president must come from the southeast. He was speaking today on Sunday Politics.
If there's anything absent in Nigeria, it is leadership. At every level of our society, there is a failure of leadership. Leadership is about connecting to the soul of the people and giving everything sacrificially to lift it up. When leaders can live like kings when their people are in the gutter, that's not leadership. But what do we see? We're still flying around in fleets of presidential jets. We're still doing, it's no connect between the leadership and the people. How's Nigeria's political class aligning itself to a new reality? This is just a disaster that has happened to Nigeria because we've not had the politics that can enable people to be responsive to the needs of the Nigerian people. And if we don't begin to do something now, when that time arrives, it doesn't have to be 18 and a half years, it can be 15 or 14 years from now, it will just be Somalia. So to check that, citizens have to rise to their role as citizens. And this is the whole essence of the National Consultative Front. Constitutional reform in our country. We need one that essentially reduces the legislative branch to a citizen legislature, a part-time legislature that people go and do their work as lawyers, come back, make laws for the country, go back to their chambers or go back to their farms or go to being doctors. What is going on today is a hijack of executive functions by the legislature. And for most of them, it's just a game. It's politics, but this is not politics, the lives of people. I think that the president of Nigeria should be Igbo speaking in 2023.
In part two, after the break, 2 killed and police and Shiite members clash in Kaduna. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us and watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos, a reminder of our top stories. Inspector General of Police warns politicians against arming thugs ahead of Edo and Ondo governorship elections. Northern elders call for caution over fresh moves by the National Assembly to review the 1999 Constitution. Well, 2 killed as police and members of the outlawed Shiite group clash in Kaduna. And protesters face off with the police as they take to the streets of Belarus in protest against President Alexander Lukashenko. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You could also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. The President General of the Ohaneze Ndigbo, Chief John Wodo, has been reacting to the recent bloody clash between IPOB members and security operatives in Enugu State and is calling for more in-depth diplomacy on the side of the Igbos in the national polity. He believes that a more diplomatic approach in fighting for inclusion will avert war and unnecessary bloodshed. He was speaking at the sidelines of an event in Enugu State.
We have been taught by civilizations in the world that diplomacy is the greatest weapon. Diplomacy can win wars. It can also avert wars. We can still do with a lot of diplomacy. We can still do with a lot of gagging our incendiary voices. Your voice does not define your representation of your anger. You can still state the facts without rousing emotions. We are victimized, we are marginalized, we are treated with infra-dig. But with resolve and God on our side and adept diplomacy, we can convince our brethren here that enough is enough. And the time to look our way for justice has come.
To security, at least 2 persons are feared killed during a clash between members of the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria, also known as Shiites, and the police in Kaduna State. The incident happened during the procession of the group in commemoration of the Ashura, a religious rite held by Shiites globally on the 10th of Muharram Islamic calendar. A spokesperson for the IMN, Ibrahim Musa, said in a statement, heavily armed security forces started shooting at the crowd with live ammunition. In the process, killed 2 members of the group and injured many others. He also alleges that 4 IMN members were wounded and 2 arrested by the police in Zaria. Although the police authorities in Kaduna State are yet to confirm the incident, both the Kaduna State and the federal government had outlawed the group and their activities all over the country since July 2019. Meanwhile, police authorities in Yobe State say they have received corpses of 3 suspected kidnappers killed by vigilante groups during an ambush early this morning. The State Police Command spokesperson, Dungus Abdul Karim, who confirmed the incident, told Channels Television that although information on the attack is still sketchy, the command is making efforts at getting full details. Local sources also confirmed that the armed men, suspected to be kidnappers, stormed Dungurum community of Murfa Kalam village in Damaturu local government council of the state and kidnapped 1 person. On getting the information, the vigilante group laid ambush on the attackers, killing 3 of them while the others escaped. Another source says 3 of the suspects that were arrested have been handed over to the army, though the military is yet to comment on the matter. We're staying with security, but this time in southern Kaduna, where the state government has commended leaders of the Fulani and Ham communities in Jaba local government area for de-escalating tension and keeping peace over the killing of a herder. The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, made the commendation during a peace advocacy engagement between Fulani and Ham leaders. This Fulani settlement on the outskirts of Sabzuru Tunganok district of Jaba local government area of Kaduna State is where a 12-year-old herder, Usman Abdullahi, was killed by some persons and his corpse dumped inside a bush. His death came to his parents and the community leaders as a surprise, as no such incident has ever been witnessed in the entire Jaba local government area. Now, a team from the state government, the district head of Nok, Fulani leaders and security officials visit the parents of the victim to commiserate with them over the unfortunate incident.
Kaduna state government is concerned about this unfortunate incident, and we came here to condole them and to also make a general appeal to recourse to the law. Recourse to the law is very important because no one is allowed to take the law on his own. We are living under the law.
In spite of all that happened, I leave everything to God. I know that security operatives are doing their best. I pray God helps them during their investigation to find a culprit.
Earlier, during a security meeting with the Fulani and Ham leaders, the chairman of Jaba local government and the district head of Nok assured that the council has been working with security agencies to unravel the reason for the killing.
We have already talked to our people. We know our people are peace-loving people. We know this thing that happened last week. We have never experienced it in the local government.
We quite appreciate seeing the effort. His Excellency, when he heard about this, he did not relent. He immediately sent the commissioner with the whole security people to come round and to see and to find how are we staying here and how about the situation. Because sometimes something happens like this, 1 to 2 days you hear different type of thing, will attack one side or the other.
Jaba has been one of the most peaceful local government areas in Kaduna State with no records of ethno-religious conflicts. To avoid escalation of any kind of violence, the Kaduna State government has promised to investigate the incident and ensure justice prevails. To some cheery news now, the conjoined twins who were successfully separated through a surgical operation by a team of medical doctors at the Federal Medical Center, Yola, in Adamawa State, are finally back to their base in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. The twins, Mercy and Grace Ayegbeni, along with their parents and medical team, were airlifted by the Nigerian Air Force. Born on December 1st in 2019, the twins were joined at the abdomen and were successfully separated by the collective efforts of the medical professionals.
Since its establishment, the FMC Yola has successfully separated conjoined twins in 2013, 2018, and 2020, while the Chief Medical Director has successfully conducted 5 separations of conjoined twins in his career. The recently separated 8-month-old conjoined twins were delivered in Nembe local government area of Bayelsa State and airlifted to Yola by the Nigerian Air Force, where they endured a 4-hour surgery on August the 10th, 2020.
Scanning, and they said it's one.
It has been quite an ordeal for the mother of the children and the chief medical director, who doubles as the lead surgeon. He gives an insight into the operation.
We took like 2 weeks to be meeting together. We did rehearsals, and I'm happy to report that a lot of improvement even on our previous operations, because we are able to reduce the time.
I was so scared. How? Why conjoint and why me? In that whole state and that whole Niger Delta, why me? So that was the last thing I heard.
The Federal Medical Center is celebrating the success of the surgery in an elaborate event that has in attendance the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Chief of Staff to the State Governor, representatives of the Chief of Air Staff, among others. In his remarks, Governor Omar Fintiri of Adamawa State, represented by his Chief of Staff, applauds the efforts of the medical team and appeals for the upgrading of the center.
These commendable feats have placed Adamawa State on the world map as a destination for quality healthcare service. I appeal to the federal government to consider upgrading the Federal Medical Center to a conjoined twins separation center.
The federal government, through the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, commends the Chief Medical Director, Dr. Awal Abubakar, for the success of the surgery.
Doing this exercise for the 5th time is no mean feat. It's not a joke. It requires diligence, it requires precision, it requires application of intellect and the management of men and resources. Professor Awal, you have demonstrated that, and on behalf of the President of the Federal Republic, I must thank you and congratulate you with your team for doing this over and over.
An award is then presented to the Chief of Air Staff for his humanitarian effort during the exercise. The Federal Medical Center conducted the surgery free of charge, which is pertinent in this case, as many families will not be able to afford such an expensive procedure, bringing to mind the need for the less privileged in the society to be covered by the National Health Insurance Scheme. The twins, Mercy and Grace Aigbemi, along with their parents and medical team, were then airlifted back to their home in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State by the Nigerian Air Force.
When the News at 10 returns, the federal government reopens Akanu Ibiam International Airport runway after undergoing renovation for 1 year. Do join us again. Welcome back, and to more politics. The People's Democratic Party in Ebonyi State has won all the 13 local government areas in the council election conducted yesterday. Announcing the result of the election in Abakaliki, the state capital, the chairman, Ebonyi State Independent Electoral Commission, Josie Eze, stated that among 13 political parties that participated in the election, all the candidates of the PDP won in those areas and cleared the 171 council wards in the state. He commended all the contestants in the election for their spirit of sportsmanship. And 1 year after renovation started at the Akanu Ibiam International Airport runway, the airport has officially been reopened for use. The airport was shut down on August 24th, 2019 for repairs and to meet the status of an international airport. At the ceremony, which was attended by Southeast governors, ministers, National Assembly members and other stakeholders, the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, also announced that the federal government has approved an additional 1 billion naira for the building of a new terminal at the airport.
The Air Peace Hopper 5N BUV aircraft lands at the Akanu Ibiam International Airport in Ogun with National Assembly members, ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and other dignitaries for the official reopening of of the runway for use.
To God Almighty be all the glory.
The minister led the team for the tape cutting ceremony and official handover of the runway.
We cut the tape to commission and open for operations the Akano Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, and to pray that may it be good for this community, for Southeast, for Nigeria, and for humanity. Amen.
Back at the tent, they all expressed their gratitude to the president for the prompt intervention.
As we celebrate today, I wish to put on record the profound gratitude of Ndi Enugu to His Excellency Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, our dear President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for his unparalleled support and commitment to this historic and timely critical infrastructure upgrade, a clear testimony of his determination to rebuild the nation through the provision of critical infrastructure to stimulate economic growth and development of the Nigerian nation.
Others seized the opportunity to call for more international flights to land at the airport as soon as the borders are opened.
The first is an immediate commercial flight taken off from Enugu from today or tomorrow, so that our people will still the problem of traveling by road. The second is to increase the number of international flights and operators coming to Enugu.
The Minister of Aviation, who announced the approval of an additional 1 billion naira for the international wing of the airport, also says flights will resume immediately.
The meaning of the opening of the airport is that it's open to flight operations. So the local flights can start from today, and the international on the 5th of September once the COVID-19 had opened the gates to come in. As a matter of fact, yesterday, Saturday, just before I left my office, I had approved and released the sum of 1 billion naira to continue the international terminal building being run by the Chinese.
As the airport reopens for business, air passengers are optimistic that this would once again revive the economy of the Southeast and open it up to the world for investment.
Bilateral issues now. The Ghanaian government says President Nana Akufo-Addo will engage President Muhammadu Buhari on how to resolve the brewing diplomatic row between the two countries. This is coming on the heels of the letter written by the Minister of Information and Culture here in Nigeria, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, in which he rejected further maltreatment of Nigerians and Nigerian businesses in Ghana by Ghanaian authorities. Ghana's Information Minister, Nkojo Nkrumah, said in a statement that the move is necessary to guard against straining the diplomatic ties. The statement further explains that issues raised by Nigeria are not reflective of the developments in Ghana and that any protest, decision or actions based on these reports will be unjustified. The statement denied any involvement of the Ghanaian government in the demolition of the Nigerian High Commission in Ghana, noting that the transaction was a commercial arrangement between Thomas Hardy, a private citizen, and the High Commission of Nigeria in Ghana on October 23, 1959, and that the terms of the commercial lease expired 46 years ago without any evidence of renewal. On the issue of illegal deportation of Nigerians, the statement says in 2019, 700 Nigerians were found to have been involved in criminal activities such as fraud, prostitution, and armed robbery were deported. The statement further denies any media war or arrest of any Nigerian trader in Ghana, stating that those affected who are not only Nigerians have been given ample time to regularize their documents and that Ghana's Minister for Trade and Industry personally intervened to ensure the reopening of closed shops pending compliance with the Ghanaian laws by their operators. The Ghanaian minister also defended the $1 million trade levy and other regulations imposed on Nigerian traders in Ghana, noting that Nigeria had equally issued executive orders preventing foreigners from getting jobs, which Nigerians can do. As a global growth rate of COVID-19 cases rises, economic growth rate declines. In Nigeria, the government hopes to reverse this relationship, but how easy will that be? The National Bureau of Statistics' latest report reveals a negative economic growth in the second quarter of 2020 relative to a similar period in 2009. Should the focus now be on avoiding a recession or limiting the effects of a recession? To discuss the facts and share insights about Nigeria's latest gross domestic product and report is Babajide Ogusowo, data and information consultant, is here tonight with handkerchiefs. I wonder why. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure seeing you on a Sunday.
I bought some handkerchiefs. I'm hoping that I wouldn't see anything tonight that would make you cry. So let's just keep this here and let's see how tonight goes.
Let's see how tonight goes. So, what should the layman know about the latest economic growth report?
The first is, I'll say, it's not yet time to lose hope in Nigeria. Developed countries, the United States, the United Kingdom are seeing double digits growth rates, so decline of their own GDP. And so it's not yet time to lose hope in Nigeria. You know, earlier this evening, I was on a Zoom call with students of the Corona Primary and Secondary School, and we were deliberating about creative but yet profitable ways for young Nigerian boys and ladies to make money in Nigeria. And
legitimate ways.
Legitimate ways. And there were lots of suggestions, and someone then asked, but what should the government do? And Eureka, what's the primary purpose of government? Section 14, subsection 2B states two things: security and welfare. But I'd like to question that, and here's what I mean. Security, the Global Terrorism Database says that between when Boko Haram started till date, over 25,000 people have died based on terrorist attacks in Nigeria. The most recent evidence from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that 57% of Nigerians are either unemployed or underemployed. Here's what I mean. Yes, in the Constitution states that security and welfare, two words, but based on today's evidence, security is now equal to welfare, and welfare is equal to security. So yes, the Constitution talks about two things. Yes, maybe in Nigeria's first constitution, Clifford's constitution, security and welfare could be two separate words. But in today's Nigeria, security and welfare seems like tautology, repetition, because security is now equal to welfare, and welfare based on the evidence we have today is equal to security. One word.
Yeah, I know this is based off of the coronavirus, but what was the probability that the economy was still growing or would still be growing if the pandemic had not hit?
Now, the evidence we have, the facts shows that even before the pandemic, the evidence from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that the Nigerian economy was already declining, not yet in negative growth. And by declining, the economy showed that consumers, you and I, were already spending a bit less. But now in 2020, we've seen the pandemic. But Amarachi, even worse than the pandemic, Nigeria now faces 3 hurricanes. Now, let me explain. The first hurricane is hurricane poverty. What do I mean? The evidence this year from the NBS shows that more than half of Nigerian babies are born into families that are poor. Hurricane poverty. Now, the second hurricane is hurricane unemployment. The evidence today shows that 57% of Nigerians are either unemployed or underemployed. Actually, even during the peak of the Civil War, 1967 to 1970, Nigeria's unemployment rate was not that high. Now, the third employment which we're talking about today is, the third hurricane is hurricane negative growth, a 6.1% negative growth rate in GDP. The last time the economy grew that backwards was 36 years ago. So tonight, I'd like us to focus on the chart of the week, because that explains what has gone wrong, and then we'll be able to quickly talk about the solutions.
So let's put it up then.
And if we look at the chart of the week, what has happened since 2015? In 2015, we saw some relative measure of good growth. The economy was growing faster than the rate of population. So 2015, first quarter, we had a 4% growth rate. In 2016, we've seen growth decline. In 2018, We've seen growth of 2.4%. 2019, yes, we saw a growth rate of 2.6% in 2019. But now we've moved from a 1.9% growth rate in the first quarter of this year to a -6% growth rate. Now, let me make it very clear. This GDP report is not Buhari's GDP report. It is Nigeria's GDP report. It is you, I, yes, the government, the private sector. What I mean is, just about 2 weeks ago, we had the Barcelona versus Bayern Munich match that Barcelona lost 8-2. And let's make it very clear. It wasn't Messi's loss. It wasn't only his loss. Neither was it just the loss of the president. It was the loss of Messi, the players, the fans, the board, and the investors. And so whenever we talk about Nigeria GDP report, let's not look at it from that partisan perspective by saying, oh, it is Buhari's GDP report. No, the GDP report is our GDP report, and yes, we must take responsibility for that report. Yes, we could always deliberate how we should share the blame, but the evidence shows that it is ours, not Buhari's.
Now, is there any positive side to the GDP reports, and is it too early right now to be analysing what sort of numbers will be released for the third quarter? Again,
I don't know if you still need this handkerchief, but we're just 30 days away. We're just 30 days away from the end of the third quarter. So it's perhaps not too early to talk about what sort of numbers we will see. But it is unlikely, based on the trends we've seen, for us to have positive numbers at the end of the third quarter. But you've talked about good news. Today, we have three types of news. We've got good news, we've got bad news, and then there's ugly news. So I'd like us to take a look at those three categories of news that we have based on the NBS's report. Now, the good news is there are 13 out of Nigeria's 46 economic sectors in that report are still growing. The financial services sector is the fastest growing sector based on the NBS's report. During the corona pandemic, we've also seen telecommunication growing, we've seen broadcasting growing, and we've seen all the four subsectors of the agricultural sector: crop production, livestock, forestry, and fishing. We've seen growth in all these four subsectors of the agricultural sector. In all, 13 out of Nigeria's 46 economic sectors are growing. That is the good news. Now, I'd like us to look at the bad news. Now, the bad news is 29 sectors showed high levels of decline. We've seen a lot of decline in the hospitality sector, accommodation. We've seen administrative sectors decline. We've seen food, beverages. We've seen decline. So these are the industries that Nigerians who have businesses will really be feeling the effects of the pandemic.
Especially
and when you have
private businesses.
Especially the private businesses. So in the summary, the bad news is 29 out of 46 sectors are declining. But the ugly news is there are four sectors.
So very, very quickly, the ugly news.
Now, the ugly news is there are four sectors that have seen more than half of their GDP decline. We're looking at the rail sector, the air transportation sector, the road transportation sector, and oil refining. But as I started, this is still not time to lose hope in Nigeria. Everyone now has to have a plan. And you know what the wise man once said? A plan that has no effects is really not a plan.
Great. That wise man is your grandfather, as I have figured out over these past few weeks. Thanks again, Babajide.
The pleasure is all mine,
Always great to see you.
Thanks for not using this.
It was a sad weekend in Hollywood, and for movie lovers across the world, as news broke that Black Panther actor Chadwick Boseman had died. The 43-year-old actor died from a 4-year battle with colon cancer. An next report follows the tributes for the actor.
Are going to be. Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
Tributes and expressions of shock continue to pour in on social media after the announcement that Black Panther actor Chadwick Boseman has died after losing a 4-year battle against colon cancer.
Which one?
The story of home.
His 2018 character in the Marvel comic Black superhero movie personifies the Black excellence movement that reverberates across the world.
I waited my entire life for this.
Nigerian frontline actor Richard Mofe-Damijo, who joined other dignitaries at the Nigerian premiere of the movie back in 2018, describes the legacy of Boseman, who is famed for his role as King T'Challa, as one befitting of a true king.
He's just king, you know. He was. Look, the easiest way to describe Chadwick is to just say that he was just like a natural successor to Denzel. He's completely immersed in whatever character he's playing. I mean, who builds a legacy like this? It's like you've been given a limited time to live and the guy was on a mission. Blockbusters after blockbusters. He was just on a mission. His legacy, people will look up to him, you know, from time to time and say, I mean, if he could do all of this with all his personal struggles and pain, then what excuse do I have?
How long do you think you can keep your friends safe from me?
And in Hollywood, gloom hovers since the announcement of his passing.
It's a big, huge loss because, you know, on the status of Chadwick, there's not a lot of black actors on that level. You know, to come this far and just to be gone so soon is a huge loss.
Chadwick Boseman, whose work as an actor celebrated African-American pioneers in culture, died at age 43 after a 4-year battle with colon cancer.
As you can see, I am not dead.
Abide Midairo, Channels Television News.
He truly will be missed. To keep art lovers occupied during the eased lockdown, the founder of LVI Art Gallery and Cultural Nexus, Julius Iyogoje, decided to try something new, and technology comes to the rescue. In order not to crowd the space, the gallery invites 2 creatives to teach an online audience about the beauty of visual art and dance. And that's on Art Review tonight.
It's one of the few galleries that opened its doors when COVID-19 restrictions were relaxed, and for a good reason too. The LVI Gallery and Cultural Nexus is celebrating life and connecting with art lovers during this pandemic with something that will soothe the mind.
I did some things for my viewers and our followers on social media. We did an online dance class. So equally to the online medium is greatly used to keep the artists busy. Nigerian dance is a contemporary culture, so we are promoting our dance, which is very popular worldwide. But although it is popular, we have to document it, we have to learn it, and we have to trade it.
In the contemporary dance class, this male choreographer is teaching urban dance moves and Afro-Cuban salsa with different reactions from the audience, most of them from the comfort of their homes.
My main aim is to teach people how to dance and how to be better in their field.
While the visual art class is to help enthusiasts sharpen their skills.
I have decided to do this online because, you know, like what is going on around us everywhere in the world right now, the social distance of a thing, and I strongly just believe that the social distance should not take us away from our values and what we are.
As creatives navigate the murky waters of the COVID-19 era, the galleries are trying to think out of the box in order to keep business afloat while encouraging collectors to keep faith.
Away from local news to the foreign scene, the U.S. Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chadwick says Democrat officials in Portland have allowed lawlessness and chaos to develop after protests in the Oregon city turned violent. He said federal forces withdrawn in July could return to the city. Now, a man was shot dead in Portland on Saturday as a pro-Trump rally clashed with Black Lives Matter protesters. The shooting came amid fights between the Trump supporters and the BLM protesters in the city center. Tension rose after a convoy of some 600 vehicles flying flags and carrying an estimated 1,000 Trump backers gathered at a mall in Clackamas County on the outskirts before entering Portland's downtown. The streets of Portland have been the scene of frequent protests in recent weeks. Well, President Donald Trump is expected to visit Kenosha in Wisconsin September 1st to meet with law enforcement and assess the damage left of unrest over the police shooting of Jacob Blake in the back, which left the 29-year-old paralyzed from the waist down. The president's deputy assistant, Jude Dare, announced the visit on his Twitter page. The president has made law and order a key part of his bid for re-election, condemning the rioting, looting, arson and violence seen in Democrat-run cities, citing Kenosha and several others. Meanwhile, the people took to the streets in Belarus facing off against riot police protesting against President Alexander Lukashenko. A huge police presence cordoned off areas such as Independence Square in the capital, Minsk. And the Interior Ministry reported at least 140 arrests. Belarus has been gripped by mass protests since the August 9 election, widely believed to have been rigged. Mr. Lukashenko, who has been in power for 26 years, says he has no intentions of stepping down and denies electoral fraud. Sports news now. Lewis Hamilton has won the Belgian Grand Prix in what turned out to be a less than compelling spectacular, holding off Mercedes teammate Valtteri Bottas in second. Once again, the Briton led every single lap of the race after starting in pole position to pick his 89th career win, just too shy of Michael Schumacher's all-time record. Max Verstappen of Red Bull finished third, holding off a lively Daniel Ricciardo of Renault, who clocked the fastest time of the race in the last lap. Brings us to the finish line on the news tonight. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, today warned politicians against arming of thugs ahead of the Edo and Ondo governorship election. The police chief says the force will not hesitate to bring the full weight of the law on anyone or group that may want to sabotage the election's security arrangement. And that is the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.